Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 22 of Conservation Conversations with BirdLife South Africa. I'm your host this evening, Andrew de Blok, coming to you live from Johannesburg. We have over 145 of these episodes recorded and available on our YouTube channel. So if you miss out because of load shedding or your Tuesday nights have just gotten busy, never fear, you can always catch up later. So tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome my colleague and also my manager, Nandi Thobela, to the show. And she's going to be speaking about her work leading our Empowering People program at BirdLife South Africa. Remember, you can put any questions you have during the talk for Nandi in the Q&A box, or if you're watching us on Facebook Live, you can put those in the comments section, and we'll get back to those at the end of Nandi's presentation tonight. We're on all the major social media channels, and you can use the hashtag Conservation Conversations to let us know what you think of the show and get in touch. We aim to keep these webinars free for everyone to learn and enjoy. So if you enjoy the series and are able to contribute, no matter how small or large that contribution might be, please do so by visiting our Cricut page or EFTing BirdLife South Africa directly. Make sure to use the reference webinars and your name. And thank you, of course, as always, to those who support us week in, week out. You really do make this possible for all of us to enjoy. BirdLife South Africa's beautiful 2024 calendars are on sale, and you can order yours on our website or by emailing Shireen on membership@birdlife.org.za, membership@birdlife.org.za. You can also find the calendars on our online shop, shop.birdlife.org.za. It's filled with exquisite photographs, which are all taken from our BirdLife South Africa photography competition, our inaugural such competition that kicked off this year. So you can see the photographs there, really exceptional and a wonderful Christmas gift. I walked into the mall this afternoon and I couldn't escape Christmas carols wherever I went. So 'tis the season, and you're going to have to be looking for gifts, and this is a perfect gift for bird lovers and a way to support BirdLife South Africa at the same time. So do get your 2024 calendar. It's also the season for Birding Big Day, and it's coming up on the 2nd of December. So start getting your team together and plotting your route. This is not just an event for the hardcore competitive birders, but it is open to everyone. You can choose between working a 50-kilometer radius area or a much smaller 6-kilometer radius, and that's perfect for the atlases among you out there. If you want to do a pentad bash for the day, that will be gobbledygook to those of you who don't atlas. But if you don't atlas, what are you doing? Join the Atlas Project. You can go to our website, birdlife.org.za/BBD, to register your team and find out all the information, rules, and regulations. So that'll be a lot of fun, and I hope to see many of you out in the field on the 2nd of December. All right, so we've got something quite special tonight. Of course, we have Nandi presenting, which is special on its own, but we have two guests this evening on Conservation Conversations. We have a quick feature here of someone that some of you might be familiar with. I was very lucky recently to be invited to a screening of a documentary made by Brett de Groot. He's the director, writer, and producer of The Call of the Wild, which is a completely new way of filmmaking. Brett was invited, well, he put a proposal into the Silver Scadam Fierce, which is run by CakeNet, and his proposal was one of the lucky 6 to be selected. And he has put this documentary together about sound safaris, and particularly how blind people engage with nature and the environment. So we're very lucky to have Brett with us today. He's going to talk with me a little bit about his efforts to make this fantastic documentary. Brett, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew.
So tell us a little bit about this, because I found in the screening what really struck me is your techniques for making this documentary both an experience for the able-sighted and for the blind. Just talk us through a bit about how you went about that and why you did it that way.
Yeah, I mean, technically, this is a completely different kind of documentary to make. This entire documentary obviously focuses quite heavily on experiences for blind people, be that in the bush or just entertainment access in general for blind people. And for me, that was quite important in that when you're making a documentary about someone, it should also be a documentary for someone. And because our protagonist is blind, I thought it was really important to make sure that this was an accessible medium for her, in which normally film and documentary is not. And so in the very early stages of interviewing Annika, who is our lead protagonist, I asked her how she would watch a movie, and she would explain to me that more often than not, she would have to sit with her siblings and they would explain the action, and then she would listen to the dialogue, which to me is not really a way of watching something. You are latent in your experience. And so what I have done with this documentary in particular is in some portions, I have hindered able-sighted viewers by removing imagery, but it's also streamlined that if you listen to the documentary or if you watch it, you're going to be taking away the same sort of message, in that the documentary reads the same way as it does with just by listening to it. And that was sort of the revolutionary take, I suppose, in terms of how to change this medium that it is truly accessible to everyone, which is great because this is an exploration of sound and audit profundity. This is a documentary that celebrates sound, especially through the incredible ears of people who aren't able to see, and often hear more than what we as fully able-sighted people would be able to.
Exactly. And then this is at its core really exploring a different way that people can connect with nature. And I think it was quite striking for the able-sighted of us in the audience who already love nature and, we'll spend our holidays in the bush, etc., to be challenged to engage in a different way, and sometimes even wanting to actually close our eyes during your documentary, which is by no way trying to say that the imagery wasn't worth looking at, but just to go into this message of, there are different ways and different means to connect with nature. And as birders, this is something we know also well, because bird calls are so integral to finding birds in the first place, but also enjoying birds. And that aspect really, really came out here. And it really appeared like Annika had a special place for birds in her heart.
Definitely. The documentary focuses for quite a large portion on sound safaris, which are safaris which are focused solely on the sounds that you're hearing. So you'll be using ultra-sensitive microphones that is fed through a safari vehicle. It's run by Derek and Sarah Solomon, who many people will know. And their incredible ingenuity sort of led to this idea of inviting blind people on these safaris, because it is so focused on something that they can tune into. But it's really for everyone. I mean, listening is for everyone. But what's interesting is we are so reliant on seeing and hearing with our eyes. We can say we hear lion, but actually we can see them over there. And so by proxy, we know what we're hearing. And that's what we really were trying to challenge people into doing. But moreover, I mean, what was so interesting is this really did become a documentary that was quite heavily focused on birds. I think it's because bird song is so important to birds in general, into their characterization. Bird watching is basically 90% hearing and 10% seeing, because as one of the experts in the documentary, Dr. Daniel Keith Danquist, explains, a blind person doesn't have to see a bird to know what it's doing. They can hear a bird and they can know what it's doing already, because you have an alarm call or a mating display, or there's communication calls. And that in itself is so interesting because it's something that we often take for granted. The other thing is just like geolocation, of knowing there's a difference between, a bulbul calling in the Cape versus one calling up here in the Highveld. And these things are things that Annika was picking up on, these really small changes and shifts in bird communication and bird language is something that Annika was immediately reading into. There's a scene in the documentary where we were filming in a museum, and Annika has this book on birds, and it's got like a magic wand, and you can press it and it starts playing bird calls. And this is between takes. We weren't even filming with her. And Dr. Daniel Keith Danquist was sitting with her, and they were sort of chatting to the side. And the next minute, she just started rattling off these bird names, and every call that he was playing to her, she was naming. And eventually, after 34 calls, we were like, we need to start filming this because this is insane. And we quickly got the camera set up and we started filming her. And it was just incredible how in tune she was to all the sounds that she was hearing. And even further down the line, you know, for us, when we were being interviewed at the premiere in Cape Town, she was being interviewed on TV and just mid-interview, stopped the interviewee and she said, I'm sorry, but have you noticed that the bird calls here are very different from the ones that are in the documentary? It was just amazing to see like that kind of how she was tied into it and really just loved birding and bird sounds.
Yeah. She's an amazing leading lady, if I can call her that. So, I mean, you've done incredibly well, I think, just to get through the competitive aspect that is Silver Scatum Fierce. You were also nominated in all the technical categories and walked away, I think, most aptly with the award for sound design. So congratulations to you and the team. We are going to play the trailer just now. I just want to quickly, before we do, just say where is this documentary going now? Because you have some big plans.
Yes, of course, Silver Scatum was the biggest hurdle, and it's amazing that this documentary was made, not only for that, but also that it's resonating with so many people, both able-sighted and not. That's always amazing if you're creating a documentary and it's actually reaching people with the correct aptitude. I think that is what you as a filmmaker really want. So now the documentary was supposed to transfer directly to Showmax, but we have consequently found out that we have been put forward by CakeNet to be entered into all the international film festivals, beginning with the New York Film Festival and the Amsterdam Film Festival, after which it enters both the American and European film circuits and all of those film festivals. So it premieres over there. And that's alone is just the most incredible thing to actually happen. It's really the little documentary that could. And it's a very exciting prospect that we can reach more people. You know, you think about the amount of people that love the bush overseas, and some of them might not be able-sighted. So to know that there's something waiting for them here, that really is just the most incredible thing to look out for and to look forward to for them.
Yeah, so South Africa just keeps rocking it on the world stage, whether it's rugby or filmmaking. You guys are all making us very proud. So all the best over there. I know you're going to travel over at least to one or two of these international festivals, which will be amazing, I'm sure. I'm going to give you an opportunity now to share the trailer with us. And then once the trailer's done, you can let everyone know straight afterwards how they can watch it before it does go international.
Perfect. Just get this going.
So much of the standard safari experience for us as able-sighted people is a visual experience. But so often, as soon as you take that visual component away, we think that so much is being lost, but actually you're able to tune into something far more special, and that's the call of the wild.
Awesome, Brett. Thank you for that. So do let us know quickly before we get on to tonight's presentation, just where people can go and catch this.
Sure. So you can watch the documentary on DSTV Catch Up. It has premiered on CakeNet a couple of weeks ago. But if you go onto Catch Up for DSTV, you can check it out on the Catch Up section that is specifically titled Silver Scatum Documentada. So it's under the documentary category. It's listed there with all 6 documentaries that were made. And of course, we are Call of the Wild. It's only going to be available for a few more weeks, so don't miss out. Try and catch it before we leave South Africa. But it will be back again next year once it has premiered overseas. And I do believe CakeNet will be rerunning them in December over the holiday period. So if you just check out for your programming there on CakeNet, you'll definitely be able to watch it on regular programming as well.
Amazing. Well done, Brett. Thank you for joining and sharing with us tonight. I hope many of our our audience go and hopefully not right now because we all want to listen to Nandi, but afterwards go and look at catch up and watch this. It's only about 25, 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's a 30-minute documentary.
Yeah, so it's like an episode of a series. Perfect. Thank you, Brett.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, everyone. So that was Brett de Groot and the Big Productions on the Call of the Wild. But our main course this evening is our featured speaker for the evening. That is Nandi Thobela. I mentioned that Nandi is my manager as well as my colleague. So I'm a part of the program that she's going to be talking about tonight. My face and my projects may come up once or twice, possibly. We'll see. But Nandi is originally from Southern KZN and has a degree in social science. And she joined BirdLife South Africa as our Empowering People Program Manager just over a year ago now. She's done a fantastic job getting a number of different projects off the ground, as well as supporting myself and Christy at the Avitourism Center with our projects and giving us a strategic direction and leadership. So I'm very happy that she's going to be focusing on my program tonight. Obviously, it's very close to my heart. Nandi has a long history working with communities and children and in the education and awareness space. So she's very well placed to lead this program. So Nandi, I hope you're still with us. We had some internet connection issues in the lead up, but I see she's still online. Nandi, if you can unmute yourself and turn your video on. And once you're ready, you can share your presentation with us and take it away. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. May you please give me permission to share my screen?
You should be able to now.
Thank you. Okay, if you can please confirm that you can see my screen, I'll be happy to proceed.
Take it away, Nandi. Looks great.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Andrew. I'm very excited to be here. It's my first time on Conservation Conversations, and I hope you guys enjoy this presentation. As Andrew mentioned, I'm going to be taking you through what the Empowering People program does. We're a new program at BirdLife, but there's a lot that we've achieved and there's a lot that we're involved in. Of course, the most important people and the most important asset of the program is the team. And this is a dream team. I'm happy to present to you guys such a phenomenal team that I work with. We've got Christy Garland on the left, who's based at the Avitourism Tourism Center. And there's a resident community bird guide, Lucky Ngwenya. We've got Andrew de Block, who's our project manager for the Avitourism work. And we recently had Thobela Zindaba join us this year as our program intern. And I'll be telling you what these fantastic people are involved in. This is how we're structured in our program. Christy at the Avitourism Tourism Center also heads up some environmental education as well there. And we have a resident guide at Nzigeni Nature Reserve. You'll be hearing all about Nzigeni and what is interesting about Nzigeni soon enough. We're also happy that we're able to secure that position. It's currently on a contract position, but it's something that we want to make permanent over time. And of course, as a new program, we have a lot of vacancies that we are working through, and you will see all the white squares are where we don't have any human resources yet, but you'll see how that all ties in together with our strategic objectives. Just to remind everybody what our organization's vision and mission is about, so that we are all in tune and see how we all interact with all the other programs in BirdLife South Africa. As you will know, that BirdLife has the vision to see all birds safe in their natural habitat, and we strive to conserve the birds through scientifically based programs. And there are 4 pillars of strategic focus that we focus on: species, conservation of sites and ecological sites, and enabling positive change amongst people. And you will see how this program is doing that in the sites that we work in. So we have 3 strategic objectives, as you guys know. It's an Empowering People program, which is essentially to empower people through the conservation of birds. But you might be asking, but how do you guys do that? We do it in three ways. We have environmental and education awareness programs, which are in 4 clusters in our country and are mainly targeted towards the younger youth or the children or kids in school, because it's such a structured foundation for us, and it's easy for us to integrate some of our work with the academic programs that exist in the school. Of course, we also have the interesting Bird of the Year learning material resources that we recently launched this year, and our webinar series along with that. We also have the Avitourism project, which is a very interesting project. And I'll be telling you more about what Andrew is doing in that project and how we are incorporating or including people and inspiring inclusivity in the whole agritourism industry as a whole. And then we lastly have the Sustainable Livelihoods project. This is really looking at mitigating conservation threats, working with communities and how we can develop shared visions with communities. So I'll begin with the interesting one, the Sustainable Livelihoods project. I've got some icons there on the screen, and you can see how our work aligns with some of the international sustainable development goals and some of our organizational goals, and also how it aligns with some of the programs within our organization. But what I will be telling you about is the Ntigeni Community Conservation Project, which is an active project that we have established in Ntigeni. And we then also have a vision to establish a sustainable livelihood project in Dachakral in Mpumalanga with the community. This is linked to Botsa's Luck. This is how we are working with communities to directly mitigate the threats to some of these species that are named here, the white-winged flufftail and the Botsa's Luck. And I'll be telling you more about the active project, which is the Ntigeni project. And this is where Ntigeni is. If you haven't been, please put it in a diary. It is an ultimate breeding destination. You have to go there. So Ntigeni Nature Reserve is located in the southern part of KwaZulu-Natal, just before Underwood. And it's a little over 9,500 hectares of pure grassland. And being a nature reserve, it is managed, it's a provincial nature reserve that's managed by Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife. But not only is it so spectacular for its grassland diversity, but also it's a Ramsar site because it's got one of the largest high elevation wetlands, which is the Ntigeni Flake, and it's such a strategic and important water source for the area. This is where, if you look at the map, this is where Ntigeni is located on the left. That's the nature reserve. But of course, our focus is on all those other villages you see on the right. It's about 32 villages that surround or border a certain boundary of the nature reserve that we are working with. And these 32 villages are under 2 traditional leaderships and also fall under one of the poorest local municipality districts in Zimkodi municipality. And so this is where we focus as the program. And what we're doing is trying to mitigate the threats that are posed by the community inside the nature reserve. So assisting Ezemvelo and also assisting biodiversity in that regard. So you might also want to know why is Ntigeni so important, not only for the natural habitats, the grassland and wetland that I mentioned, but the diversity in terms of bird species, the diversity in terms of grasslands and forbs, and the flora and fauna is just amazing. So these are some of the species that you find in Ntigeni, and some of which are endangered and vulnerable. We have the bearded vulture nesting there, and Cape vultures, and some of the endemic and most important species, little yellow-breasted pipits. These are just a few that are mentioned here. We get all 3 crane species breeding at Ntigeni Nature Reserve, and we have been so fortunate in our last visit as a team, we were able to actually see all 3 crane species. Of course, another flagship species here is the white-winged flufftail, which is globally critically endangered globally, and there's a lot of research and the pilot work that is being done at Ntigeni to support the species and to better understand the species. And we're very happy that we are able to work with the community in trying to support this kind of research work that's taking place. And while it's a beautiful destination, birding destination, it is also still plagued with so many threats. And I'm going to speak specifically about the threats that are posed by the community. One of the biggest threats is the illegal grazing of cattle or livestock, which of course causes a lot of ecological degradation in the wetland and in the grassland as well, because it's uncontrolled, it's unmanaged, and at any given time you are lucky if you see less than 400 cattle on the nature reserve. But this is something that isn't really case within wildlife is working actively to try and sort out, and we are also supporting their efforts by working with the community and providing them an alternative space to graze their cattle through the Herding for Health program. Of course, there's other threats that are in the nature reserve, such as the erosion gullies, and the infestation of black wattle, alien plants. So this is similar inside the reserve and in the communal rangelands. So we are working with the community to try and solve it in the communal rangelands so that we can have the cattle outside the nature reserve, because when we did feasibility studies, we found that most of the community are grazing their cattle because they don't have any alternative place to graze their cattle, because all the communal rangelands have been overgrazed and are plagued with alien plant infestations, pollution, gully erosion, so on and so forth. So this is one way that we're trying to design a shared vision with the community and the nature reserve to understand that we're facing the same problems and we need to try and solve these problems together. And yeah, so that's the work that we're doing there. Not only does this reserve have such good habitat heterogeneity, but we have also a business that was established in the nature reserve, 2 lodges that belong to community, which are also a bit challenged because they run at a loss. One lodge is actually closed down because it was just so, it was looted and it was vandalized and it was just non-functional. And with the current lodge, which this is Ntigeni Lodge, it's also in dire need with the infrastructure dilapidating, and there is poor management between the community and Ezimvelo. So the community own and manage the lodges themselves. So what we then think, how we thought we would try to partner with the communities is to understand their needs, and we want to help them, and we want to partner working together in the communities with the lodges and also with the biodiversity restoration. And this is what we think would work, and what we were implementing here. We want to say that with having habitat restoration, we understand that it will obviously increase the biodiversity in the area, not only in the nature reserve, but also outside the nature reserve, because remember, I'm focusing outside the nature reserve, and also improve ecosystem services, such as water production and grazing capacity. All of that will improve for both the community and the nature reserve. And then we will have all of us an improved quality of life, the biodiversity and the people. And we hopefully can achieve that. Then we have some spin-offs such as, income generating activities that can also contribute to the improved quality of life. So not only from a health perspective, from a natural environment perspective, but also from an income generating perspective to improve our livelihood. So, it's not always going to be job creation, but sometimes it can be, entrepreneurship development, it can be training, it can be capacity development that can unlock other things and other doors for the communities. These are just some of the things that we've earmarked, and we're currently completing feasibility assessments on, but definitely the Herding for Health program, which is a holistic program that looks at holistic grazing, but also, speaks about community capacitation and training and employment. And then, of course, this when the community is happy, and they don't have the pressed need to raise their cattle in the nature reserve, we will have improved the biodiversity in the nature reserve and outside the nature reserve, and then hopefully enable us to do effective conservation in the area. But it's just very important to not look at a protected area in isolation, but also see how we can look at the outside areas and also improve the outside areas. This is for potential, protected area expansion, or at least for providing ecological corridors and habitats of the future for other species that might not be in the nature reserve. So this is very important. And it's also bringing the conservation of the biodiversity closer to the community. So they don't see it as this thing that is in a nature reserve with the high fence that I have no access to, but that's something that I can also have within my yard and within that works with my livelihood. What we have achieved so far is very little compared to the road that we still need to walk, because this is not a short-term goal. This is not a short-term exercise at all. But we have to always remind ourselves anyway where we have started. I have started with the program only in 2022, and my colleagues before me had already started doing some groundwork as well. So we have very short journey that we've walked, and we still have a long journey to walk. So just bear that in mind. But I think some of the most important things, such as stakeholder analysis and community engagements, are things that are ongoing and things that have begun. And you can never have enough or sufficient. You can never tick that box and say community engagement has been completed, it's done. It's never completed, because it is always ongoing, and it's a conversation and not an information sharing session. So you're always going to be getting feedback, and there's something that you always have to incorporate and you always have to adapt. So that is always ongoing, but we're very happy that we have made some notable steps towards implementing the Herding for Health program. It's a very effective program that's worked in so many areas that are similar to the community that we're working with. I'd have to have another presentation based on to just talk about Herding for Health program, which I'll be happy to come and talk to you about it next year, hopefully when we've had a year of implementation and seen how that has gone. But we were also very proud to be able to have a resident guide based at Mtsigeni, because we didn't have somebody before then. So just somebody looking after the wetland and showing people birds in a responsible way and keeping track of, people coming in and people, leaving the reserve. That's also something we want to help the community with, the tourism aspect, to help them develop that. And we're almost towards the end of the year, and we have plans of, having a conservation officer based there. We're also very happy that we will be able to do that before the year ends, and also to assist the community in tourism information resources. We have also got a whole web page of Mtsigeni for Mtsigeni on our website. If you can go on our website, you'll find it there. So these are just the little milestones, but I think they make a huge effect, and understanding that, we are going at a slow pace and we have to always be consulting with the community. A little bit of an ad break and advertising here, just to advertise our bird guide at Mtsigeni, Mr. Dalu Ngobo. If you ever go there, you'll be greeted by this friendly face with such a big smile, and he'll make you a fire. If you go there in winter, you'll be so warm. He'll make you a fire and a nice cup of joe. So Dalu is based at Mtsigeni. So, and he does, besides guiding, he also assists Dr. Kyle, who is from our landscapes program, with the monitoring of the white-winged flufftail and all other bird species that occur there. And he also assists the reserve when it comes to birding fire breaks and when it comes to road maintenance. And he also assists the community when it comes to guests, because the community are not always able to get to the nature reserve in time. So he assists the community, he assists Thobela, and of course then he assists us. And this is the way that we want to bring communities towards a shared vision that, here's a resource that's benefiting all of us. And hopefully then we can all get to a place where we can all appreciate this resource and support this resource. And of course, DALU is supported by our many bird clubs and associates that are on this that are on this slide. So moving on to the second strategic objective I spoke about is Avitourism. And this is Andrew de Blok's portfolio that he manages. But of course, I will talk specifically about the Community Bird Guide project because everybody's interested to know how we are working with communities in biodiversity conservation. And the Community Bird Guide project in our organization is such a flagship project that we're very proud of. And of course, in just recent events, last month, October, yes, we were able to witness the graduation of newly trained guides, these 4 guides from new areas that we have not trained before in the Eastern Cape. And we're very proud of the guides that, we started off with about 6 and then there were some who dropped out. So we're very proud of these guys who stuck it up, I think, and they should also be very proud to be able to pass Wayne's course. So these guides are going to be deployed in their communities and they can already start their guiding journey within their communities. They go comprehensive training, not only about bird identification, but also, first aid, also, business training, and, what you need to do to establish yourself as a guide. And our trainer, Wayne, is also providing some mentoring and some support, which is something that we often appreciate, working with trainers who can, extend their expertise beyond the formal training. So these are our new guides. And you might also want to know, so once you're a trained guide, what else can you do? So there's another thing that we identified that, there's a need to diversify the skill set of our guides that we train so that yes, they can be good at guiding, they are nature guides, but they are entrepreneurs because we don't employ them. And this is a training that was done, a leadership training that was done last year with some of our already trained guides, and capacitating them in terms of how do you market yourself, how do you deal with tax and all business side of things, because we know it's not easy to start a business. And so we are very happy that, we've got a good understanding with our guides that we are able to also service their needs. So this program does beyond just the training, but understanding the context where the guides come from and the need to diversify their skill sets. And that's not the only thing. We are also able to, for the first time this year, hold the butterfly identification training course, which was hosted by Steve Woodhall. We're very excited about that. That was so popular that there's actually a demand to have another one. And these are also, of course, our guides. And they request these kinds of trainings to say, this would help us improve our livelihoods. This would help us, at least now I don't need to only look for bird guests, for guests who want to see birds, but guests who also are interested in the small stuff, the dragonflies and the butterflies. So this is another step that we are doing towards improving the livelihoods of people and in the communities. And of course, our community bird guides are ambassadors in the communities that they guide and that they work in. And we were also able to hold for the first time what we're calling a bird guide in Daba, where we try to get together the old guides that have been trained and then the new guides that have been recently trained to come and share some experiences and some life experiences and to share some lessons and to also get feedback from the guides that how can we better improve our program in BirdLife? What could we have done differently if there was a need for us to do something differently, or that would have helped them or assisted them in their journey of becoming a birding guide. And we are wanting to take this even further, because we feel like we've had this program for at least 20 years and we want to start evaluating, some of our impact and understanding what it actually takes to say that we have to capacitate communities to become birding guides. But I'm very proud of this work from Andrew, because it seemed like a mammoth task, but it was also something that the guides have been asking and begging for, to say, can we get together? Some of them were returning to the training center for the first time since they were trained 20 years ago. So it was great to see the knowledge sharing and the experience, the real experience sharing from the old guides and with the new guides. And then lastly, this is also something that we do with the bird guides and in the Avitourism project, marketing the bird guides. Of course, as I said, they are ambassadors to our organization, and marketing them. We've put them on our Go Birding platform. As you might know, if you haven't been, please go. That's where you will get all your birding needs, all the birding sites you want to go to, and the guides that you can book. And so we're hoping that as this Bird Guide Community Project grows, we'll be able to have many other guides that can be deployed and fill this whole space where it's empty. And I'm very proud and thankful to say that our Community Bird Guide Project work and Avitourism work is sponsored by these donors here. And then the last strategic objective before you guys fall asleep is the environmental education and awareness. So of course, children are our future. We all know this, and they are also part of the community that we work with because it takes a whole village, right? And being part of the community, one day they will also be the izindunas and the chiefs and the leaders in the community. So we work with children, obviously different. And we've got several clusters across the country. The Mpumalanga cluster that Christy works with is also focused on the Botsa's luck, because the Botsa's luck is also one of the species that's found in the community at Dachakral, where we hope to establish a community livelihood project. And we also have the Bird of the Year learning resources. So not only is that in the past we would have Bird of the Year, and sometimes we put up resources on our website, but we're actively trying to get educators and practitioners engaging in the learning resources. You know, we've hosted webinars where we've talked about this. We roll it out in all the schools that we work with, and then the cluster in Gauteng, we focus mainly on the white-winged flufftail during World Wetland Day, because we've got a bit of a workbook there for grade 6 curriculum. So all that we do under the environmental education and awareness project is aligned with some of these sustainable development goals. If I can just talk about the clusters that we work in, the Gauteng, I'll start with Gauteng first. What we've been able to achieve through partnerships. We partner with many partners, such as Rand Water and Pick and Pay School Club. So we are very happy that we were able to form these strategic partnerships that allow us to be so impactful. On World Wetland Day, we're able to reach 60 primary schools, and we were able to roll out the Wetland Warrior booklet to at least 8,201 learners. And with this work, you must understand it's not only impacting the learners, it's impacting the teachers, and it's indirectly impacting the parents as well at home. So I think it's such an important kind of work, especially for kids living in urban areas where wetlands are in dire threat, and even those that exist are very small, and it's very limiting. So it's always so nice to bring this exposure to kids in an urban area. And so this is what it looks like, the Wetland Warrior activity book. And it's a program that has actually been going on even before my time, and I'm very grateful for the partnerships that we've had, so that we're able to actually continue the good work that had already been started with the White-winged Flufftail Festival. In Gauteng, we also work with the Boys and Girls School Club of South Africa. These are clubs that are established in township areas for kids to not be idle after school. It's an after-school curriculum, so kids can come to the club from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. They'll have a hot meal, they'll be assisted with homework, and and they'll be kept engaged. So they have their own separate curriculum as well. And we're very happy about this work because it's also reaching now a different dynamic or a different space that we were not necessarily focused in, because these kids are coming from township, not necessarily from areas bordering protected areas. So it's been quite an interesting experience and a journey with the guys and girls from the Boys and Girls Club. And then lastly, in the KZN cluster, we focus on school. I'll say we focus on school, but we focus on learners. So our environmental education program is really focused on learners, it's focused on the schools, and it's focused on the teacher impact. And through the work that we've been doing in Sisue, we were able to identify some learners who've shown such a keen interest in this curriculum, and they took part in the Bird of the Year excursion. So they had been doing the lesson plans for the Bird of the Year, and we were able to show them the Cape Parrot at Mahuba's Kloof. So 19 of us, 19 kids, we recently went up there, and it was so fun to also interact with the different kids from Johannesburg and from KZN. And there's a lot of many activities that we did, from bird identification, from snake and reptile awareness, from learning about different bird names and bird behavior. And we're very fortunate to have our guides, David and Paul, who were up there and guided us. And I think as a last bit, if you can read fast while I talk, I wanted to share. So one of the activities we were doing on this trip was journaling, and starting to get kids to write down their thoughts, because we're also wanting to look at what is our impact on the kids' mental health, of this program, because this is a rather, fun program. Not that maths is not fun, but this one is much more fun. So if you can read fast, this is one of, I obviously can't mention the kid's name, but for Poppy Acts and whatnot, but this is one of the journals that I managed to have a sneak preview and took some photos, but it just really touched my heart. This is one of the kids that was from the Gauteng clubs. It just really touched my heart how impactful this kind of an excursion and this kind of a Bird of the Year curriculum has been to these kids. Having the Cape Parrot as the Bird of the Year has actually opened their eyes to many other bird species, and to, the kids, if you ask a kid to say this in class, they'll never talk about the experience the way they talk about it in a journal. So I was very touched and very encouraged to read some of the journals that the kids have written, because I told them it's for themselves, and they should continue their journaling and continue starting to keep a bird list, which is very fun. So it's I think my favorite part of this journal was I don't even miss my parents, friends, and family. So I think overall, I think it's a positive impact on the mental state of kids, from all the different roles, even the kids that were coming from rural KZN and the kids that were coming from Johannesburg. So I did mention that, we work with a lot of partners. A lot of people assist us in this work, and particularly in the environmental education work. It's funded by Italtal, Ceramic Foundation Trust, but also our bird clubs assist us a lot with donating stationery and donating any other resources, learning resources that we have. So we always welcome that. And in my last slide, I just want to challenge anybody who's listening, and I hope to know that I'll see in the comment section, what role do you think you guys can play in supporting this program, or what would you also like to see us do in this program, because this is a people's program, and we want to impact and to be inclusive and include all kinds of people in our program. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Nandi. I mean, this program has been in existence since 2019, when BirdLife South Africa did a restructuring and took a hard look at itself and said, we need to be doing more work with people. We did, have our bird clubs. We had the odd thing here and there which engaged a school, but we didn't have a consolidated program that put people at the center of conservation. And that program started in 2019, but for nearly 2 years, we sat without a program manager, firstly because of funds, and then we needed to find exactly the right person to fill that role. And then Nandi came along, and I think you can all see from her presentation today how much difference she's made in the short time that she's been at BirdLife South Africa, getting the environmental education and awareness projects off the ground, getting the sustainable livelihoods projects off the ground, and you're putting people back at the center of conservation, because I think that is such an important thing to focus on in the modern day. You just cannot have conservation without people. So thank you, Nandi. Really incredible presentation. Thank you for all the work you do for BirdLife South Africa, how you support me in my project as well. Yeah, it's a pleasure to work with you, and a really nice talk. Thank you for sharing with us. So those of you who are interested to know some more, you can ask Nandi some questions. She is still with us there, I see. And in the Q&A box, if you pop your questions there, you can do so. But in the meantime, Nandi, just soak up all the virtual applause and hearts that are coming your way. Plenty of them.
Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. So everyone, just so you know, our next webinar is in 2 weeks' time. And it's going to be Dr. Hanneline Smit-Robinson, our head of conservation, who is going to be going through BirdLife South Africa's conservation highlights for the year. So that should be a really feel-good webinar, and that'll be the last one for the year on I think it's the 28th of November, if my maths is correct. I think it is. Yes, today's the 14th. Okay, haven't embarrassed myself. So Hanneline's going to be giving that webinar. Please do tune in and join us. It should be absolutely fantastic just to end the year on a real high note. And that'll be episode 147, I think, of Conservation Conversations. So hopefully early next year, we can celebrate 150 episodes. Wouldn't that be amazing? All right. So last thing just to be said is please do fill in the post-webinar feedback survey. It's really important for us to get your thoughts on the webinars. It'll take you literally a couple of minutes. So yes, thanks to Nandi. Thanks to you for tuning in. I am not seeing any questions on Facebook or in the chat box. So I think Nandi just did a great job of... there is a question. Now all the questions come in. As I said, there are no questions. Sorry, Nandi, you didn't get off the hook. I'm going to start with a question from Sunal, Nandi, if you can answer this one. It's in which area in Gauteng are the educational programs taking place?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. So in Gauteng, it's the clubs are in Alexandra. There's like 3 clubs or 2 clubs in Soweto, and Protea Glen, and Lufuno, and Maritzburg, and Vredesdorp. So that's where the 6 clubs, and also Bertrams near Hillbrow. So there's 6 clubs. So that's where the clubs are located. And then the schools for the white-winged flufftail activation work, we select schools from Pretoria, from Mamelodi, from Kagiso. So it's looking at the whole of Gauteng for the schools. I've got a list of schools I'm happy to share.
Awesome, thank you. There's 2 more here at the moment. So the first one from Mark Jarvis. Nandi, Mark would like to know, what are the barriers to expanding this project and this program?
Okay, thanks, Mark, for that question. The barriers are funding and growing the team. You know, if we could have 4 Andrews, or 4 Christies, and 4 Nandis, I think would be very effective, and a budget along to implement some of this work. Because I can tell you, while community work is not easy, it's not a barrier. We cannot, we have to summit that mountain of working with communities. It is challenging. It's not easy work, but that is a mountain that we have to summit, because as Andrew said, we cannot have conservation. We cannot be truly implementing conservation without communities.
Well said, well said. And then a last one, unless another one comes through, from Priscilla Beaton, who, Nandi, you may remember was one of our award winners for the education work that she's done in Cape Town. And she would like to know, are there educational resources that we in the Western Cape could utilize? For example, the Wetlands book, She is aware that they can access the Bird of the Year resources, but anything else that people can use?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's the Bird of the Year resources and the wetland book that's also on our website. And we're also happy to share. So in the curriculum work that we do in KZN, we develop workbooks for each subject. We've got a workbook for birds and maths, birds and English, because we aligning with the CAPS curriculum. So we're also happy to share, some of that work when requested.
Awesome. Okay, so I think, Priscilla, maybe the best is just to get into email contact with Nandi, if you don't want to just search around our website endlessly, although there's plenty of gold to mine there as well. All right, everyone, nice and short and sweet tonight. There's lots of positive comments in the chat box. I'll leave that open for a couple more seconds or a minute or two. I'll play some music in the meantime. But thank you for joining us. Thank you, Nandi, for her wonderful presentation. We'll see you again in 2 weeks' time for our last one of the year.